Outsourcing list building, unlocking growth through AI and offshore solutions. Your outbound isn't stuck because of messaging, it's stuck because of data. If your pipeline feels like it's stuck in second gear, the bottleneck is usually your list, not your pitch. In 2025, static B2B lists go stale fast. Contact data decays between 22.5% and 70.3% per year, and email addresses decay about 3.6% per month. That means last quarter's fresh export can already be quietly wrong. The painful part is that most teams still treat list building like a side quest for SDRs. Reps bounce between LinkedIn, spreadsheets, and database filters in the cracks between calls, then wonder why activity is high but meetings are flat. When a team asks SDRs to be both researchers and sellers, the selling part is what loses. Multiple studies show reps spend only about 30 to 35% of their time actually selling, with the rest going to admin and research work that doesn't directly create pipeline. If we want Outbound to scale, we have to stop paying seller-level wages for manual data work and build a system that feeds clean targets to an outbound sales agency motion. Why list quality makes or breaks outbound performance in 2025. Bad data isn't an annoyance, it's a direct financial leak. Gartner estimates poor data quality costs organizations an average of $12.9 million per year, and separate research cited by Forbes suggests it can erode up to 20% of revenue through mistargeted decisions, wasted effort, and inaccurate reporting. When lists are wrong, you don't just miss meetings, you distort the whole go-to-market system. Bad lists also create invisible taxes on your team. Reps waste 27.3% of their time, about 546 hours per year per rep, chasing inaccurate or incomplete contact data. That's more than a quarter of your outbound capacity evaporating into bounces, wrong titles, and dead phone numbers before your cold callers ever reach a real decision maker. Deliverability has gotten ruthless, and list hygiene is now a prerequisite, not a nice-to-have. One 2025 benchmark found only 23.6% of B2B senders consistently verify email lists before campaigns, which helps explain why so many teams see bounce rates and spam placement climb even when their copy is solid. If you run a cold email agency program on unverified lists, you're not testing messaging, you're burning domains. Treat list building like a pipeline product, not an SDR chore. The fastest way to stabilize outbound is to treat list building as its own function with clear ownership and SLAs. We recommend thinking of a list as a product your SDRs consume. It needs defined specifications, ICP fit, quality controls, validation, and performance reviews, conversion by cohort. When you manage lists like a funnel input instead of a CSV, list complaints drop and reply rates become predictable. This is also where sales outsourcing becomes a strategic advantage. A strong SDR agency or B2B sales agency can centralize research, enrichment, and QA while your internal team focuses on conversations and follow-up. Instead of every rep inventing their own rules in LinkedIn, you get one documented ICP, one segmentation model, and one consistent definition of ready to contact. The economics matter too, especially if you're comparing in-house hiring to outsourced sales team support. Here's a practical way to frame the cost and speed difference that many teams see when evaluating cold calling services and list building services side by side. The 2025 model: onshore strategy, AI enrichment, offshore scale. The most effective list building engines now look hybrid by design. Keep ICP definition, messaging, and final QA with US-based strategists who understand your buyers, your positioning, and the nuance of your no-go accounts. Then use offshore research teams, commonly the Philippines or India, for high-volume discovery, data cleaning, and repeatable enrichment tasks that don't require market-native judgment. AI is now table stakes in the middle of that workflow, especially for enrichment and personalization. About 63% of B2B marketers report using AI in email outreach, and teams that apply AI to firmographic, technographic enrichment, and first-line personalization typically launch campaigns faster with tighter targeting. The key is balance. Use AI to surface signals, tech stack, hiring, triggers, but keep humans accountable for edge cases so you don't automate garbage in, garbage out. Offshore execution also changes the unit economics of list building and prospecting. SalesHive reports clients can cut SDR costs by 60+% by leveraging Philippines-based SDRs and research teams while still running U.S. time zone outreach under onshore leadership. That's how modern cold calling companies scale. Offshore throughput with onshore control of voice, targeting, and quality. If your reps are hand-building lists from LinkedIn, you're not running Outbound, you're running a manual research factory with a sales quota attached. A validation-first workflow that protects deliverability and performance. Whether you outsource list building or keep parts in-house, the workflow must be validation first. With only 23.6% of teams verifying lists pre-campaign, verification has become a competitive advantage, not a hygiene checkbox. Make email verification mandatory before every large send, define acceptable bounce thresholds and rework policies, and block risky segments before they ever reach your sequences. Next, tighten your ICP and tiering model so you're not optimizing for volume over fit. The best outbound sales agency programs don't win by sending more, they win by sending smarter, segmenting by relevance, and aligning titles to real buying committees. When your list partner understands what Tier 1 actually means, not just industry plus employee count, your SDRs stop wasting touches on accounts that were never going to convert. Finally, bake compliance and opt-out handling into the list-building scope of work. GDPR or CCPA readiness, suppression list hygiene, and consistent field mapping aren't legal extras. They're how you avoid preventable deliverability and brand damage. A good partner delivers ready-to-send records that your team can trust, not just a bigger spreadsheet. Common outsourcing mistakes and how to avoid them. The most common mistake is letting SDRs build and clean their own lists, while also holding them to meeting quotas. You end up paying for admin work, reps cut corners under pressure, and ICP adherence becomes inconsistent across the team. Centralizing list building or handing it to a specialist sales development agency gives you consistency, speed, and repeatable QA. Another frequent failure is relying on a single data provider and never enriching. Even great databases drift because the world changes, titles shift, domains change, companies acquire and rebrand. So you need multi-source aggregation plus ongoing refresh. If you don't, bounce rates rise, trust in Outbound collapses internally, and your database subscription turns into an expensive excuse for underperformance. Teams also get burned by treating AI as a magic button or avoiding offshore teams out of fear of quality. In reality, AI should be a force multiplier for enrichment and pattern detection, while humans control ICP decisions and messaging tone. Likewise, offshore can be extremely reliable when governed by clear SOPs and onshore QA. The goal isn't to outsource judgment, it's to outsource repeatable throughput so your best people spend time where judgment matters. How to measure ROI. Score lists on outcomes, not rows. If you want outsourcing to work, you can't manage your partner by number of contacts delivered. You need cohort tracking tied to outcomes, bounce rate, reply rate, meetings booked, and pipeline influenced for each list batch. This is how we help teams compare segments, geo, titles, company size, and double down on what actually converts instead of arguing about field completeness. A simple operational change makes this measurable. Tag every contact in your CRM with list source, provider, and build date, then review performance monthly. When you do that, patterns show up fast. Certain filters drive better replies, some sources generate higher quality direct dials, and specific cohorts produce real opportunity creation. That's how a cold calling agency program becomes an improving system rather than an endless more leads request. To make vendor expectations concrete, align on SLAs that map to real business outcomes instead of vanity fields. You can operationalize this with a small set of measurable standards that your partner must hit consistently. What to do next? A practical rollout plan for 2025. Start by auditing where prospecting time actually goes. Have SDRs track 1 week by category: research, list building, cleaning, calling, emailing, so you can quantify how many hours are being burned on data work instead of conversations. When you see the gap, the case for sales outsourcing, or at least centralized list building, becomes obvious and easy to justify. Then run a controlled pilot. Pick one ICP slice, for example, US mid-market SaaS with 50 to 500 employees, and test an AI plus offshore research workflow for 4 to 6 weeks. Compare time to launch, bounce rates, reply rates, and cost per meeting against your current approach, and keep everything tagged by cohort. This is the cleanest way to decide whether to hire SDRs internally, expand your in-house ops, or partner with an outsourced B2B sales provider. If you want a model that combines list-building services with execution, SalesHive sits at the intersection of onshore strategy, AI-powered enrichment, and offshore scale, supporting programs that include cold email, B2B cold calling services, and full SDR outsourcing under one playbook. The end goal is simple: fewer hours wasted, cleaner inputs, and a predictable outbound engine that compounds instead of decays.